Today, we're mounting some jewelry on this Honda right here. It had a typical number plate, however, I got a customer that wants two 10-inch rigid lights. So we got a couple rigids, a 10-inch E-Series, boom, which is the double row. This is a flood. And then we got a 10-inch SR series, which is a single row. That is a spot. So we got a big flood, and then we got a spot for distance. Both these lights are badass, and I have just one of these spots, or actually a driving on the front of Megalodon, and then I have an amber on the front of the Slug Shark. Don't mind Timmy, he's here building some barbecue contraption today at the shop, but this was a reference that the customer brought to me of some rigids on a different bike. Printed it out and was like, I can make that. And so here we are. I made a couple different sample pieces. Obviously I needed to get some different angles. That was a really quick, rough draft with some notes. And then this was my second piece, and then I transferred it over to 3/16 aluminum, and now I'm cutting them out on the bandsaw. This is our dirty work area, and over there semi-clean, but it's still dirty. So that's how it goes at the shop. Like, let's be real, right, Tim?
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing stays clean. So I just got my first one cut. I'll show you what it's gonna look like on the bike. It's gonna be pretty badass. You have to take into account, obviously, your front brake line and a few other things. I'm giving him room to where he can still adjust his forks up or down. If he goes much more than that down, then he's gonna have a whole lot of steering, and the back end's gonna dance. If he brings them up, he still has room on the bottom clamp to do so. But this is essentially what it's gonna look like when it's on the bike, and I'm pretty excited. I wanted to space them out just enough to where it covers up as much as possible. Keep them up high, because the higher the better. It kind of gives you a little bit of less, little less shadows, as you can say. So as always, I got my safety glasses, my heat waves, with my side shields. These are the lasers, love them. And I'm getting close to cutting my second piece out, and then I'm gonna go take these to the brake, and I'm gonna bend them and start fitting them up for on the bike. And I'm gonna make on the bottom half tube clamps that I'll hose clamp on, and then the top I'll have hose clamps as well. And I'm gonna see where those stand, and I might even, instead of just doing 4 hose clamps, I might even try to capture this upper bolt up here on the top triple clamp. So I'm gonna get going through the waves of this and cut this next piece out, bend them, and hopefully get this done within a manageable time. It's taken a little bit longer than I've already anticipated it taking, but it is what it is.
It is.
Handle it. Right? It always takes way longer than you expect. Always. So got both my pieces. I decided to give myself a little bit more room for the bend and also the front brake cable, since it's going to be tucked up behind here. I just transfer punched my center holes where the lights are going to actually sit, so you can see those. And now I'm just going to drill those bad girls out. Hardware fits like butter. And then after I do that, I'm basically going to use that as a template for my second one. lined up nicely. Boom. Now I know my holes are nice and even. You can see on my tabs, everything is buttery. So I clamped them both together and then I belt sanded them so that all the edges and everything are really, really tight and nice, all handmade. From here, I'm going to make my bend marks. And then I'm gonna make sure that I bend one left and one right. If I bend two rights or two lefts, I'm an idiot. And you know what? I've done it before. And if you haven't done it, you're a liar. Unless you haven't done it, then.
No, I've done it a few times.
Timmy's done it a few times.
Yes, quite a few times.
I like it. Dude, look at that shirt right there. Midwest Dirt Fest. What? Who remembers some content from that? Shout out to all these dudes for supporting it. Rigid being one of them. That's why we're putting lights on the homie's bike, because we're supporting those who support us. So let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. All right, so I got my left and my right, and we got our swag off-road little press brake. I'm gonna bend them on my bend mark. Basically, the width of the lights is a little bit wider than where my forks are. The forks are roughly about 9 1/4, and then the width of the lights, the widest one was 11 5/8. So I'm gonna break these, and then I'm gonna mount it up to my widest light, and then I'm gonna take a measurement from the bend, inside the bend, to the inside of the bend on the opposite side. So these press brakes make it $14.8. That's close enough for me. After I get that dialed, come check this out. Here's how I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna get those spreads in between the two. I'm pretty much going to take my light bar, wherever my hardware went, in my pocket. Right here. Put the hardware inside the light. This makes it super easy. Rigid does a good job with this stuff. Everything fits tight and it's pretty durable. That's one beautiful thing about it. This light's gonna go on the bottom. So I'm going to put this light on the bottom here. Other light on the bottom here. And I'm gonna snug these up. Give them a really gentle snug. Okay, now that those are snugged up, I'm gonna measure in between here. Both these look really parallel, which is really good. So that's at still about 10 1/8. 10 1/8. So that's good. That means they're both really level. So I'm gonna keep putting bend in this until I get to that desired 9 inches for this to fit on my forks, where I'm gonna put half clamps, tube clamps, and then also try to pick up that upper if need be. I'll put a center section in here as well so that it's not completely reliant on the lights itself. And this should be pretty sick. It's already looking pretty dope. So I'm excited about this. Update. I got both pieces broke, and here's my fork tubes. This is a little jig that I made. You can see it's hose clamped here, and I'm going to weld them there. I could have rotated these, but if you want to take these off very quick and easily and straight off the bike, I'm doing them to where when I put a straight edge across here, all the planes of these half tubes are on the same plane. It's looking pretty sick, I must say. I'm pretty excited about it. What I used was this tube here, and you can see those cut marks. I marked it on both sides. I slid my little circle diagram over it, and that way I can make sure I marked center. And yeah, so I'm gonna weld these bottom ones first, and then I'm gonna get my height, and I'm gonna try to keep the spread very close to here in case if they do ever slide up and down. I'm gonna try to come off of this with a tab and pick up here. But if they ever do try to slide up and down, I don't want him to move too much. But then again, if he does get different triple clamps, this spread might change. I don't know if like Pro Circuit and those guys run a different width on triple clamps, which I believe they do to get a little more strength out of them. And yeah, so it's looking sick. I really like the profile of it. On the bike, it looks good. And yeah, I'm pumped on it, but this thing's looking sweet. Since the material on the outsides is thicker, I'm going to use a torch to heat up the thicker material, the 3/16 versus the 1/8, just to get a little warmth. So that way when I go to TIG weld onto it, it's not gonna be a pain in the butt. It's just a process you gotta go through, but that's how you do it, and that's what I'm gonna do. After I get these burned up, welded on, I'm gonna slap them on the bike, figure out my spread, weld the top ones, put a strut across the center, make tabs to pick up those top triple clamp bolts, and we're gonna keep it rolling. More updates. So I've gotten the lights on after I took that jig, my fork jig, which was right here. Now it's off. The reason why I elevated off the table so I could get the hose clamps around it, and then the spread for the lights and everything. So this one's Dimple dyed, and it looks sick. So this will slide into here and then locate right there. Boom. Look at that. I don't even got to put a clamp on it. The thing just sits right there, nice and tight in place. This one has to suck in a tiny bit, but so that's one side right there. Sits down inside of that, recessed inside of that, so it doesn't pinch the standard stock plastic. But it's so sick, super clean. I DA sanded it after I just put the dimples in there. This one here does not have the dimples. However, I transferred everything, all my measurements after I got the sizes I wanted and all that. So what I use when I usually drill these is I'll usually start with I'll put this in here so I don't score it up. Put this in the vise, the rag, so I don't score it up. I'll usually start with a 1/2 inch drill bit, and then I'll use a big unibit. Keeps it nice and centered, and then it also deburrs it at the same time after you drill through. Of course, you're gonna make a big mess. After that, you take it to the press, and you press with a dimple die. You put it in the press, and you dimple the two together. You can see on dimple dies, one side's elevated, one side's beveled. That way, when the material's inside of there and you press it together and yonder, it'll drop it in and dimple it and add a little bit of rigidity to the material, because now it has that angle to it. Is it gonna add much strength to this? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think that's the weak point on this specific part, but it is gonna add some cool points. I think, what else do I got to cover? I went and got hose clamps from Napa County Motorsports. Use the Shreddy promo code, the Shreddy account. It'll save you 30% over there at any of the County Motorsports ones. But I also used 3/8 diameter heat shrink. I put that over the, of course my phone's ringing always. I put that over the hose clamp, so when they go over the fork tubes and everything, it's not scratching them. Really cool little trick. Looks good and also protects your forks. Of course, I've made a giant mess. I've cleaned up twice, and we're getting it though. We're really close. I'm gonna dimple die this last one, and after I dimple it, I'm gonna start assembling it on my, I might bust that jig back out and clamp it down so everything's nice and straight when I tighten everything, and then do a final tighten and torque on the bike, and it's looking good. It looks sick. I'm gonna save that for last though. Well, I have something to show you. I'm sure it's been anticipated just a little bit throughout this little YouTube edit, and voila, there she is. Probably looks a lot bigger in the video than what it really is, but it's not that big, and it's nice, it's compact. I had to give the front brake line breathing room, so as it cycles up and down, it's not potentially catching on anything or sticking. You can see these tabs here that I put here that come off of it, that locate it. Once you kind of clip it in, it sets in place. I got the reveal on each of those nice and tight and right. I threw a dimple in the center of the lights and then two there. You can see the hose clamps with the heat shrink over those, boom, boom. You still can adjust your forks up or down a couple notches, which is beautiful. And that's it. Homeboy's gonna have to wire it because I have no idea on the wiring. That's not up to me, but I made sure that it turns and clears those hose clamps all the way. I put them in line with the back of the lower triple clamp so it looks nice and good, and it clears everything with plenty of room to spare. So that was today's fun. That was today's job. Make a little money, collect and pass go, throw it back in the program. You know, it never ever ends. However, those do look awfully good on there. Ow, I should watch where I'm going. But I like it. I like it. Pretty much here is the picture I was given as I showed earlier. You can see it there. Very similar. This one's a little bit more bubbly and more rounded. I didn't really care for the roundedness of it. I went with a little bit more of a matching reveal of the actual light bar itself. The other one had a big round hoop here and a big round hoop here. I kind of like this one. It looks more sleek, like a shark's fin. And that's a wrap for today. The sun's setting, shadows are casting, and it was a warm one, but got it done. There's a couple times where I was like, this is taking way too long, but that's usually the name of the game with fabrication. You usually think it only takes a couple hours, and it takes all day and then some. But I'm stoked. Again, I hope somebody learned something. I need to get better. I forgot my head strap to kind of do like some hands-on stuff, but I'm trying to get better. But also stay productive. Yeah, So as you can see, we can do it all. We do it all. And if you like what you see and you want to see more, like, comment, subscribe. Shreddy Life. We got our YouTube. We got our apparel. We just got the new summer stuff dropping on the weekly. So stay tuned for that. And appreciate the love. Hope everyone has a good week, day, and I think it's time to see homeboy shred this thing. So I'm gonna call him and have him come pick it up. Love y'all.